This week we have speaker, author, host. She's a DEI disruptor. We are Randi Bryant. Welcome to the show, Randi. Oh, great. Great to have you. I mean, not to
So
mention
happy to be here.
entrepreneur
Thank
as
you.
well. And I'm sure there's plenty of other hats that you wear and do it with so much grace. Oh, yeah. All right. So,
You know how you have to be these days.
quick question to, get things started. What does the following quote mean to you? DEI is not a threat. It's a gift.
It's not a threat. I mean, it is a threat to those who want to be in full ultimate control and power, but it's not a threat to the majority of the population. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I really do try to say the words now because people are comfortable saying that DEI is a threat. But when you say the words, like how is diversity a threat to you? That really makes people have to deal with their own issues. How is equity a threat to you? How is inclusion a threat to you? Why are you uncomfortable with people that are different from you having the same opportunities that you have? And when they're participating in the same environments, why is it threatening to you for them to feel comfortable? So that is what it's about. But those who feel threatened
Right.
by it are threatened because they just want ultimate power and control. And we just have to be completely honest about that. There's nothing scary
Yeah.
about diversity,
Right.
equity, and inclusion
So that was
unless you're xenophobic
that was Alicia Keys
and
at
power hungry.
this past year's Grammy Award ceremony.
Yes, I certainly I reposted it on all of my social media. I've been in the field of diversity, equity, inclusion for 20 years. We didn't call it that. It was called many different things before it got here. But it's nice that what's been my passion for 2 decades is now something that everybody's talking about and everybody's familiar with. I would say even last year when I would talk about it, a lot of people would say, because they would know me, Randy B, but they didn't really know what DEI meant. And they would say, what does that mean? So
Okay.
now it's like everywhere, and becoming
Right.
a term that
All
people
right.
know.
So take us behind the
Sometimes
curtain
negative
of some
things
of the
can be good
conversations that
publicity.
you've been having pretty much since Election Day.
Whew. Yeah, there's a lot of fear. I am in Washington, D.C., where you are witnessing people getting, whole agencies being shut down. There is supposedly a list of people who worked in DEI. All those people were fired. You're not just here in D.C., but across the country. Things are being shut down. So, the first question people ask me is, do I think DEI is gone forever? And I'm like, regardless of what people try to do, you cannot get rid of diversity, right? Because this country, which is why I think some people are so scared, is changing every day. I mean, the majority right now, which by numbers is white people in this country specifically, is supposed to completely be different by 2044. I would dare say before then, because a lot of people, particularly people who are immigrants or even black people, don't participate in these census polls. So, you know, they cannot get rid of diversity. I mean, they're trying, but they can't. You cannot get rid of diversity. Um, and then once you have diversity in these companies, if you want to retain talent and get the best talent, you have to create environments that people feel comfortable with working. So you talk about, I'm just going to make a tangent real quick. You talk about diversity. We really started having these conversations when white women specifically started going into the workplace and started becoming secretaries and assistants and receptionists to make the environment inclusive where it didn't feel like a hostile work environment. We had to come up with programs to train men not to talk to their employees the same way they would their wives, girlfriends, mothers and daughters. And so that's inclusion, right? And so you can't have the diversity without having the inclusion. That was, one big issue. But yeah, conversations I'm having are fear, a lot of anger. People are scared to talk, to be honest with you, so they talk directly to me. You don't want to complain if you're not feeling welcomed or included in your job, because at least you have a job. Um, and every day people are sending me, messages of, each day we get different corporations that are dropping their DEI practices, enrolling their DEI practices, and people are saying, what should we do? Like, this is terrible. Like, should we uh, you know protest, right? Like, you see the big Walmart protests and the big um, Target protests, but then people have the question of, well, I'm fine with boycotting Target and Walmart, but what about the people who work there? What about the black businesses that have products in those stores? Like, I don't want to hurt them. What about the people who are working in those stores? I don't want things to get so bad that they lose their jobs. So that's a real question. I've told people that I have truthing cards, these cards that are 100 questions to ask for the black community. And those are sold at Walmart and they're sold at Amazon. So I am one of those people who, is a vendor at these stores that we're now protesting and now boycotting. So it's, there's these, it's a question, it's a problem. Like, what do I do? But I advise people, like, I am boycotting. I haven't been to I'm not buying anything from Walmart, including my own product.
All right, so
Should do.
you mentioned your truthing
Okay.
cards. They've
Yeah, go
sparked
ahead.
important discussions in the workplace, in public places, at the dinner table. Talk about the concept and how you came up with it.
In my years of doing trainings across the country, I found, I left there really wanting to help in any way I could unite my own people, right? Black people. And one of the things I felt was missing were those conversations we used to have around, Big Mama's table, where, you have people, black people from all over, like you got your rich aunties, you got your poor people, you got people from New York, you got people from deep south. You have, I think there's this great
Hmm.
diversity, but your family and you get together and you get to hear different perspectives. And I feel like now, because of social media, we don't talk like we used to talk. And we talk about real stuff more than what's happening with P. Diddy or whatever. Like, talk about real issues within the community. That's how I grew up. And it was a big deal to, like, to graduate from the children's table and to be able to participate in the grown folks conversation. And I really loved the questions that, the questions we have where, you sit around with your friends and you ask each other questions. But I thought they were all relationship based. It's like love and sex is the hot thing, or they were nothing specifically for our people. So some to me just were not relevant to our community. So I wanted to create some cards to get us talking again. So I came out with the first set of cards just for black people, 100 questions, like 102 questions, um, to, spark conversations. And I was so excited about them. They've gotten good feedback. They did so well that I created a second set of cards just for black people. And even that reaction, you talk about DEI, how many people became upset with me because they're like, what do you mean they're just for black people? I'm like, they're just for black people.
Hmm.
Like, they're relevant to our community. People aren't used to things being just for us. Like, that was offensive. The third set is for all people. It is a box of questions where you can evaluate and test out and consider your biases, your blind spots,
Okay.
your isms,
All right.
whatever
So
isms you have,
the
and how
company
you
that I
move about in this world. And
work
so that's
with,
for everybody.
we have a DEI initiative per se, but when it comes to getting company-wide support or funding, we're always hitting a brick wall. Um, how do how do we, as say like a company like Postman that I'm employed
Right.
by, where there's only like a handful of people of color working there, how can we have those conversations, with those that refuse to acknowledge systemic inequities?
Well, first of all, I'll say this. It really, that was one of the things why I call myself the DEI disruptors, because I really wanted to disrupt how we were doing things. Because
Mm-hmm.
people say they have DEI initiatives, but they really don't. I always tell people you don't have a DEI initiative if there's no budget. You have no DEI initiative if there's not someone from the C-suite who is involved in the process, and you have no DEI initiative if it is outside of everything else. So DEI should mean that the products that you develop are, you think about, are we creating products that anybody could use? If a person had issues with sight, or needed a, needed letters to be bigger, or it can our website be used by all people? Can someone call in and speak a different language and access us? They should be looking at the facilities. Like, are there facilities where if someone was wheelchair dependent, they could work there? Or if you went to the stores, that they could, the counters are low enough. DEI means that when you are looking at bonuses, do we reward people for having teams that all people feel included, and that all people feel safe, and that all people feel as if they have a possibility to be promoted or to move up? Do we see diverse at the top of the area? It's not to me a diverse team, because some people say, oh, we have great diversity, like corporations. I won't name names right now, but they'll say we have great diversity, but that diversity is literally, like a McDonald's. Like, you might say we have great diversity, but that's because you have a bunch of people who are brown and black working in your restaurants, but you have not many brown and black people in your corporate offices. That's not diversity, right? And so, DEI should be seen throughout everything. If DEI is, someone like me coming to do a speech in
Mm-hmm.
Black History Month, then you don't have DEI. Like, that's not it. That's a club. That's, so, but people say they have it because it's almost like marketing. It makes them sound like they care, but they don't. So if you have a company that doesn't care, my first thing is I think people need to get together and say, this is what a DEI program looks like, and this is what we're expecting. This is why we have DEI. We want you to look and make sure that a woman is getting paid the exact same as a man for the same exact job title, the same exact job. We want to ensure that we're seeing diversity represented across all levels of the organization. Like, you have to tell people what you want when you say you have DEI. If you have my cards, they're
Mm-hmm.
great. Those cards really, you start small. It could be 4 people at lunch, asking each other questions. It doesn't have to, and then it can grow. And then you could say, hey, we're doing some truthing after work today at the bar if you want to do it. Like, it's
Yeah.
no one is, most people are not going to engage with you if you say, hey, I want to talk about systemic racism. Like, they're immediately like, no. That's why I created the questions, because they're questions like, if you were walking down a crowded bus, or like, how you fly Southwest and there aren't assigned seats, and you have to sit next to somebody, who do you choose to sit next to? Like, let's imagine there's young people, older people, black, white, Latino, Asian, people who are openly in the LGBTQIA community, more like obese, someone with tattoos, someone who looks like they may be unhoused. Who do you sit next to, and who don't you sit next to, and why don't you sit next to that
Mm-hmm.
person, right? And that gets conversations going where people challenge their own biases, right? Like, I tell people, I'm not gonna sit next to the person who has a baby, because I don't want to hear the baby
Mm-hmm.
crying the whole time. That's a bias, because the baby might be great, baby might not cry at all, but that's a bias, right? So it's those things. I probably
Right.
wouldn't choose to sit next to a elderly person, because I find they always want to talk. I want to talk. Like, so there's these things, and they're created by biases. And I always stay
Right.
mine, because
I do
people
find
think
it
that they're
interesting that you
wrong for
mentioned
admitting that they have biases.
that
But no,
you're
it's
even going to
impossible not.
boycott, or you are boycotting the store that sells the cards, or you wouldn't even purchase your cards from that store at the moment. Um, as we continue to deal with this new administration and the radical changes that are taking place, like, how do we band together to make the biggest impact when it comes to fortifying our DEI efforts?
Well, for things like boycotting, for instance,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had to decide. Like when we had Tabitha Brown, and everyone was like her products, right? And I love Tabitha Brown. I'm proud of all she's accomplished. But we have to decide, is her continued success more important than the major change that we can make at a consumer, at a whole consumer? I mean, we're talking about our people. Like right now, you saw how quickly they said, okay, we're not going to even, mess with you guys anymore. We're not going to. There's not going to be any DEI. I mean, we don't have the luxury like white people have, the majority culture, white men in particular, have to think as individuals. So is the right thing for Randy to make $30 on her card? I mean, probably by the time that, like, on her cards, or is it better for us? For like Target stock is dropping every day. Well, and so if they say, gosh, a company that doesn't have DEI, people will stop shopping with you, then they will implement DEI again because they don't want to lose money. And so we have to ban. It's interesting to me because I'm not, I don't think by nature an alarmist, but there is an active war against us right now, to me, right? And programs are being stripped every day, and programs that barely did much of anything, but it was what people deserve, and we don't have the luxury at this point in time to care about the little things, like, because people can buy from Tabitha Brown from her website, they can buy from me from my website, and all the black, people who have, their businesses and are selling in these stores. They have other options. I mean, there's some people who are saying, well, I'm going to go to the store and just buy black-owned business products. First of all, I don't believe people when they say that. You go into Target to buy one thing. When does that ever happen? Whenever
Uh-huh.
people going into Target for one thing that they want, that doesn't
Yeah.
happen, right? And then you end up giving the people their money, right? So I just don't believe in it. I believe that the time is now for us to, and I always say, no one's going to change their hearts about DEI. They're not going to say all of a sudden, oh my gosh, we were so wrong. We realized that we love you and we miss you and DEI is important and this is what we need. The only thing that changes people's minds is business. They're in business to make money. And so if their business suffers because in droves we decide not to,
Right.
shop there, then they will, trust me, have a change of heart. Not real heart, but it has to be driven by money.
Do you
Why
feel
they did
like
the Montgomery
I guess this
bus boycott.
stage is necessary, especially with how it appeared that a lot of companies, or even, like I was employed at UNC Chapel Hill at the time during after the George Floyd assassination, and just everyone pretty much jumping on board and saying that they're starting a program, but like half of them didn't put their money where their mouth is. Do you feel like this stage is necessary to recognize the real from the fake? Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by this stage being necessary? This timing where people are walking around, like walking away? Oh, it definitely does show. I mean, I think we're seeing a painful lesson. I mean, one of the reasons I left, for the most part, doing DEI in the corporate America was something that I already saw, that they were not genuine in what they were promising, and they would set up DEI departments, and really it was more of a marketing effort than it was really wanting to create change. And so they are exposed now. We're seeing it, and hopefully, I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tough on all of us for a while. Hopefully, it's not the whole 4 years. I'm praying for some sort of miracle, but yeah, it's going to be tough. But the good thing about it that I'm seeing is that Black people are uniting, Latinos are uniting, Asians are uniting, women are uniting. LGBTQIA community is uniting. I mean, people are, when you realize that, hey, it's I mean, when you go through
Yeah.
bad times,
Yeah.
it forces you to
Like
unite. And I
just your
think we did
challenges
need
that you
unification,
faced as a black woman,
and we still do.
leading conversations on DEI. How did you overcome them?
Well, I don't overcome them. Those challenges are still there. I kind of, would sidestep. I learned very early about how to talk to the majority culture about issues that made them extraordinarily uncomfortable. So, when you go into a corporation and they're asking you, I have been asked, literally, I've had people say to me, we want to have a conversation about what systemic racism is, but we don't want it to get too heavy. I'm like, well, it's kind of a heavy topic, it's kind of hard. But I had to learn how to, I had to learn different tactics to make people feel comfortable. Like one, letting them know that I didn't think they were bad people. Like I think white supremacy is bad, right? But it wasn't, because people feel very defensive if you come at them at certain ways. When I came out with my first book, Never Says, which is a DEI book essentially, I changed the book at some point because I wanted everybody to read the book. I wanted it to be approachable. And I said, when can people talk about race and everyone's cool? And I was like, the comedians. I thought about Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy, and the work that they had done. And I said, they were able to talk about race. Dave Chappelle, very candidly, where all people laughed, and yet there were very heavy messages in there. So I hired a cartoonist, a newspaper cartoonist, a brother, and he was the first black cartoonist of a major newspaper. And he did I put cartoons throughout the book to, make it more approachable and not to scare, so it wouldn't scare people. So I've learned to keep it light, even though it's heavy. I've learned to admit my own weaknesses, because most people don't want to feel like they're bad people. So when you talk about things like biases and things like that, you have to make them feel like you're not a bad person. We all have them. So I tell them about my biases. I tell them about when I say things that are completely wrong. I tell them about, first time I went to a wedding and there were two men getting married. I was like, I didn't know what to call the two people who were getting married because it was new. I said, it wasn't legal. Same-sex marriage wasn't legal the majority of my life, right? And I was like, so don't feel badly about being culturally illiterate in certain ways. We're all constantly learning. So I think I try to make our issues human issues and not just like one person's or one group.
Dr. Todd McClain provides periodontal and dental implant services in 2 convenient locations. They offer over a decade of experience treating patients, and appointments can even be scheduled in the evenings, weekends, or early mornings. Give them a call in Chapel Hill at 919-537-9774 or in Durham at 919-484-8338 or visit them online at gumsandimplants.org.
How did you figure out how
so
to
important.
balance being unapologetically you while still, fostering these open conversations?
If I'm honest, I got too tired to be anybody else. I think that, I was very much raised, by 2 black parents, who taught me how to code switch. I was very well trained on how to be an acceptable black and can do it easily. But after a while, I think hiding yourself, muzzling yourself, wearing the mask becomes exhausting, and you really just want to be yourself and recognizing that you aren't bad. Like, who you are isn't bad. And I just decided to be me. Also, I felt like a hypocrite. Here I am being this person who's supposed to be this leader in DEI, telling people to be their authentic selves, and I wasn't authentic. I wasn't being my true self. And so just, I mean, I got tired of trying to be anybody else. And also what I hoped was in being myself, I was inviting everybody to also be themselves. How can I tell people you should be who you are? And I'm talking about your professional self, right? Because people say, I mean, I like to drink wine. I don't think because I'm having a bad day, I should bust out with a glass of wine at the workplace, right? That's not, so be your professional self. That is a part of me. But, we all have different sides. I have my mom self, my friend self, but my work self, I am myself. And sometimes, whereas like I wouldn't have worn braids at one point, braids are very professional. At one time, I will say what matters to me now and share. I don't hide pieces of myself that are acceptable in the workplace just because they're connected to my blackness. Or even womanness. I talk about when I was in corporate America and I got pregnant. I hid that pregnancy for a long time. I think I was 6 months pregnant before I I was small enough before I let people know, because you thought that people wouldn't look at you as, hard hitting, and I was in the tech field and, ready to handle business, and, we can't take her seriously. I was scared it would hurt my promotion possibilities and things like that. So I wouldn't do that today.
So based on that answer, like, what do you see when you look in a mirror?
Depends on the day. It depends on the day. I mean, I'm very much into my blackness and my womanness, blackness being first. I mean, at this stage, aging is a trip. Sometimes what I see are like, girl, what happened? Who is that? Um, but I'm just very comfortable in. I'm getting comfortable with the older lady part, but I'm very comfortable in the black part and the woman part. Yeah. And I'm comfortable with being. Let me not say I'm fully comfortable, because you do get nervous, because I say things very boldly, and I get some strong messages from people, and sometimes you feel uncomfortable. Sometimes you do want to just like shrink. I oftentimes want to shrink myself,
Right.
but I'm still going to do it. I'm still going to be me, and I still feel as if somebody's got to say it. And I'm in a position now, because I've retired from the traditional things in life, that I can say it. I honestly feel like it's funny. People used to always say when you're walking in your purpose, you'll know. And I thought that was so corny, and I didn't get it. I mean, I always liked the work I was doing. It wasn't until I started really, truly just bringing real activism to my work and speaking boldly that I realized I was walking in my purpose. And so there's a lot of times I cannot stand what I'm doing. Not that I can't stand it, but I'm terrified doing it. I'm fully uncomfortable, but I just feel that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I have conversations with God. I'm like, okay, for real, all right, okay,
Right.
and I just,
Yeah.
all right then, okay, let me just go
So
ahead,
with the purpose,
because it feels
right,
bigger.
finding your purpose, and I mean, do you wake up like some mornings and be like, you know what, and, I've given it my all, and I don't think I can, be successful, or do you doubt yourself? Uh huh.
Oh, every day. Every other day I want to quit. I want to break up with myself. Every other day, yeah, all the time. I mean, I never post one video and feel confident. I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, what are people going to think? What are they going to say? And I post a video a day, so there's always that. Black people, which is the majority of my audience, love my people, but we're hard on each other, right? I could do a whole 10-minute speech on something deep, like us being enslaved. And if I said something was brown and it was yellow, I mean, I'm gonna get, it's yellow.
Right.
Oh my God, yellow, not brown. What? And I'm like, that, you knew what I meant, but that's what you're gonna say. Or Sometimes people are just nasty. It's interesting that a black person can hurt me. I get bunches of people, bunch of non-black people calling me out of my name all the time. It doesn't faze me at all. Like, I'm just like, okay, whatever. But when black people get on me, it hurts more. I'm more sensitive to it. Sometimes you do something and you think like, that was incredible. I did that, yes, and then you see it and you get 15 likes. You're just like, what happened? I am constantly muzzled, so I'm constantly like right now on TikTok, I'm shadow banned. I got a violation, a community guidelines violation 2 days ago, because it's like racism is bad, but talking about racism is horrible. So if I report on a racist incident, I'm the one who gets in trouble, like, which is wild. So sometimes you just feel like you're being held back by so much, and you're going against so much. You want to quit. Or I tell people, I know because this is my news trend and what I follow, like, people know 5% of like the horrible stuff to me that's happening. So they may know about Target and Walmart, but I also know like they killed, like they'll stop recruiting from HBCUs, or there's programs at major colleges that they would talk to black engineers and recruit from there. They've killed those kind of programs. Things that are just like depressing sometimes, and you're just like, just forget it, man. Like, it's just it's just too big, right? Too big, too much. And you wonder,
is that the gift and the curse of social media when it comes to the work you're doing with Truthing with Randy B?
I'm relying on social media. So when I first started writing, I didn't even use my full name to talk about being inauthentic. I went under the guise of Beatnik 24, and I would write. And I just wanted to share with some people, because I saw people were suffering in the workplace, and I just wanted to kind of express, how when you hear someone and they say exactly how you're feeling, you're like, yes, it's like therapy to hear it. I kind of wanted to be that person. But the message grew, right? And people needed it. And so that my tagline is, awareness, love, and unity. If I can make some people aware, because, our school systems teach us nothing about who we are. A lot of times people aren't able to be who they are in places. So just bringing awareness is, I think, important. So I need social media. I'm relying on social media. But I have been banned on every single platform at one point or the other. It doesn't stress me out like it used to for some reason. It does, like, again, back to that purpose. I feel that what is supposed to be received will be received. I believe that what I'm meant to deliver will be delivered. And like, what is meant for me is meant for me. So I can't sell the cards in Walmart right now or whatever. I believe if they are supposed to be sold, like, that's just the way things happen. They just pop. And
you just mentioned schools, and of
it
course our history not being taught in the school systems, or especially down here in Florida, intentionally removing our history from the schools. Like, what strategies do you have in mind to kind of combat that?
Well, one, I tell parents, you have to give your kids a secondary education. That's not anything new. Your parents, what gets me through is that my parents very much taught me who I am. You cannot imagine how a child's self-esteem directly is related to how well they succeed in this world. And if the schools are teaching them that the only great writers, scientists, and everything did not look like them, there's no way they can be go for it. I mean, I tell people the reason why we have so many of our youth who want to be athletes and entertainers is because that's all they see our people being, right? Not that those are wrong to be, but they need to know it's tons of black doctors and lawyers and government workers and police officers or whatever, garbage men, whatever it is, that are very successful and doing well, and what we come from and how like the amazing things our people have done and who we are. Like if people just keep telling you that your people ain't nothing, that's exactly what they would be, is nothing, because that's what they've been told. And so I just think all the time. I mean, I remember even when my children were tiny, I'm like, anything. I mean, we'd be looking at I'd be reading a magazine. I'm like, oh, look at her with her beautiful brown skin. I'm like, I wanted them to look at black and brown and think beautiful and strong and great. I mean, to the point they were probably sick of me. They were sick of me. Like, here she goes. But I knew that they could only accomplish to the level that they thought that they were capable as black men. I have two sons. I think it's just incredibly important, and I can tell people when they know who they're from and are solid in it. Like you can tell Kendrick Lamar, for instance, at the past Super Bowl has a strong sense of self. You could tell Samuel L. Jackson has a strong sense of self, and it doesn't have to be just because they're making these radical statements at the Super Bowl, that some would see as radical. But you could just tell when someone is very strong and comfortable in who they are, and they don't waver from it, and they feel all the possibilities that live within them. Like I went to Tuskegee University undergrad, and I think that's a beautiful thing that HBCUs do, is that they give you this sense of I can do anything. They give you this sense of great possibility, and so I think that our children need to get that from birth, always, constantly feel, and not just from calling them king and queen, but actually teaching them what they came from, giving them their history.
Exactly.
And if it wasn't so important, there would not be so much effort to block it. If they didn't understand how people's self-esteem was affected by the history, they wouldn't be so scared for little white kids to know about their ancestors being colonizers and enslavers and rapers and kidnappers. They wouldn't care about it. They wouldn't block us knowing our history and how, like, wow, despite all that that you have gone through, let me show you all the things that your people were able to do, right? Once you have that sense in you, like, I feel like I can do anything. Those days you ask me, do I doubt myself? Because I know my history. I'm like, you have a nerve, girl, bye. Like, get yourself together, because this is who, these are the people that came before you. Like, get it together. Like, even when I had my children, I remember I thought I was, it is a painful thing. I was like, I'm gonna die, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. And I really did. I went inside and I really kind of started meditating and ruminating on the fact that the women before me used to be working in the field, going to labor, have a baby beside a tree, right? And so I'm like, girl, you could do this in this little hospital bed with drugs. You know what I'm saying? You got this. You can do this because of the women before me. And I said, so
this
that
unwavering
history provides
faith
extraordinary
and
strength
resolve
for us.
that no matter what is thrown in front of us, we're going to overcome.
Absolutely. I mean, even now with all that's happening, what has been interesting to me, people are afraid, people are angry, but I don't, and scared as far as more short term, like I got bills to pay, but not this long term, like I'm never going to make it. Like, it's not this is it for me. That does not exist. People just, I don't know, there's this
what gives you
that
hope
we have that,
for the future
it's going to be tough, but we're going to get through.
DEI and inclusive leadership? Like, what does success look like to you?
Well, people are going to people. so you know, like they said, oh, now they've changed the forms, right, to read male and female, and I know people are sensitive to that. But regardless of how you feel about it, there's going to be people who are non-binary in the way they identify themselves. It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. I could say to people, okay, it is now illegal to be gay. I mean, people have been gay since the beginning of time. I mean, it doesn't change. You can tell me we are not going to have Black History Month, and this has been the blackest Black History Month there's ever Black History Month in the history of Black History Months. Like, we are going to celebrate Black History Month regardless if the federal government says it's a holiday or not. So and I am seeing that, right? So I am so filled by watching people like Coca-Cola calls ice on Mexicans, and Mexicans have now tanked their stock. They're not drinking Coca-Cola. They're all on Pepsi. Like, they saw their power, they came together and shut down. So I feel really bolstered by people. People are going to people, and people are going to insist on being who they are. You are not going to just shut me down the way you thought. You look at what just happened in Lincoln Heights, Ohio, and you have the white supremacist group showing up, and people are like, oh, you want to show up? And they're coming out just like ready, and they have guns, and they're like, let's do this. And so, I hate that we have to go through these hurdles, but all I'm seeing is people are going to jump them. I mean, people are going to jump them, they're going to crawl through them, they're going to knock them down. People are serious about it. And so people are going to insist on being who they are. We've had a taste of it. It's out there. People are, like I said, we're pregnant now. This country is diverse, and it's with people who want to be who they are. And they don't care how you feel about it. And so I like that. I mean, I feel very hopeful. I think it's going to be dark before it's light, but that's part of the way life goes. But I do feel as if people are insistent upon it, and what I'm really seeing is the unity. I mean, the unity is what makes it happen. If people feel as if they're not being respected and don't have a chance to make it, they're going to unite. What I'm seeing with Black people in particular, right? Well, really all groups of people, I mean, are coming together. And the beautiful thing for me, that one thing I have preached forever, and it's like people always thought, oh, poor Black people, and I'm like, white supremacy is anti everything that's not white, male, heterosexual, right? That's white supremacy is against that. And people couldn't get what I was saying. And I'm like, Black people might get it first, and we might get it worse. But if someone does, I've never ever seen a white supremacist group even, or ideology that does not affect all people, right? You're gonna get it. And so it might be Black people first, but I promise you, Latinos, you're gonna get it. Asians, you're gonna get it. And it's like people forgot, like Muslims are going to get it. And so the one wake-up call that I'm seeing that I hope people retain, right, is that, one, you could never earn your way into whiteness. I've never seen it happen, and whiteness could never obliterate every other group. About whiteness, I'm talking about white supremacy, this idea of it. And so you have to learn to work together. You have to learn to make it work. So what I hope to eventually see is, where all people who feel other are united. If women and LGBTQIA and Black and Latino and Asian and Muslims and Jews and whatever said, you know what? No, we all deserve a fair shot. It wouldn't be a problem. The issue is that everybody is against everybody, and we're all too busy fighting each other that we can't even handle what the common
All right, Randy,
issue is.
A little bit about
supremacy.
you now.
White people, white supremacy.
What's something about you that people find most surprising?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you probably have to ask people that. I don't know. I think I'm pretty candid with who I am. I'm out there, a lot. Let's see. What would be, that I'm a good cook. That I cook a lot and I'm a great cook. I think people are surprised about that because when they see me, I'm in restaurants. I don't cook as much now because my kids are grown or whatever. But I am a great cook. I'm kind of like a very
Yeah. You tame
domesticated
yourself
kind of person. I
when
think
need
people
be.
see my
Okay.
wildness. I think I'm a wild
What's the go-to
animal, but
dish?
I'm domesticated. I'm tame. I can be tame. Oh, I don't think I have a go-to dish. That's a good question, but my family's from the South, but my mom was one of those black people who left the United States and went to France. So I do from French food to down home Southern food. I'm learning, trying to teach myself how to become really proficient with like Thai food because I love it and I want to learn how to make it
Right.
really
All right. So
well.
I see some
So I took some classes in
Jet
Thailand, but I'm still got ways to go.
magazine covers behind you. Uh, yeah. Okay. So, like, give us a story
Yeah.
about
Yeah,
any of the
exactly.
three behind you. Um, James Baldwin.
Well, I will. Oh God, James Baldwin is the heartbeat of my
Okay.
life. I mean, there's a quote for everything that happens in the world by James Baldwin. Maya Angelou is who made me want to be a writer. I still haven't written a book that she has called me to write, and that's going to happen. Nina is like what we just saw with Kendrick. I was like, it's one of those moments where, artists need to use their voices to speak up. And, people say, oh, I want to dance. I'm like, I'm so sorry you were not able to twerk. However, there was just other more important things that were, that are going on. Um, he had this stage to, really change. Well, I mean, I thought it was a very unifying, but it had so many messages that were throughout it, and he took the
Yeah.
opportunity.
And we're still going
to,
to
do what he
um,
needed to be
decode a lot of
working
what
later.
a lot of those messages in the performance. Like, it's something that we'll be dissecting this time next year, I'm sure. So that's how Kendrick is. He's gonna put medicine in the Kool-Aid all the time. Yeah. So
Yep,
what's next for you?
he's brilliant, and so he's just brilliant. Well, I have a show out right now that's Amazon Prime, on Amazon Prime. Some people are boycotting Amazon, but called Truthing, where, it's one question that's asked to four black people, but who are diverse, that come from different walks of life. And, we discuss the question. Like, so there's an episode like, should we stop saying the N word? So we have like D1, who's a current rapper. We have Eric Sermon from EP&D from back in the day. And, we have this discussion. So that is on Amazon Prime right now. I would love to be able to have another season or 2 or 5 of that. My happiness is really sitting around, listening to other people, and have other people listen to each other. And that's how I think that we unite, is just being respectful of one another, learning from one another, realizing that we're not as separate as, we have to realize that there was a plan to make us feel separated from one another. So I like when a brother who is driving the bus gets to hear from the brother who is the CEO of the bus company, and they recognize that their struggles are very much the same,
Okay.
and that we're
All right.
united
So
in this, maybe fighting
Randy, feel free to
differently, but
plug
united
the
in the
website,
struggle
plug
for
the cards, the book. You already plugged the show on Amazon Prime. Yeah.
Yes, Amazon Prime Truthing. Everything's truthing. I mean, my cards are truthing cards. Like, truthing's a term that I created, like people living, walking, and speaking their truth. So the truthing cards, you can get them from randyb.net. If you're still shopping at Walmart or Amazon, they're there too. What else can I say? I have a book called Truthing. I have a book called Never Says. You can find me online at Randy B Anything. I'm Randy. I think it's the Randy B on TikTok, Randy B on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
Randy underscore
Randy
underscore
B.
on Instagram.
Randy Bryant.
Randy with the I. If you
Yes.
Google Randy B, you'll find me.
the
Yes.
DEI Disruptor.
Yes, I'm Randy B.
Um,
Most people don't even know
the
Brian. I'm Randy B.
the master of Thai cuisine.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Um,
No, not yet.
okay.
One day.
All right. I'm not surprised by that either. RandyB.net. Like I said, Randy, it's a pleasure. Continue to fight the good fight. All right. So for Stop, Look, and Listen, I'm your host, LaTroy Gardner. See you next week.
Thanks, LaTroy.
Peace
I
and
appreciate you.
blessings.